Hi, this is Tamara Rubin, Lead Safe Mama, leadsafemama.com, tamararubin.com, and my husband is filming again today. Thank you, darling husband. I'm here today to talk to you about vintage Pyrex. A reader sent these in to me, and the interesting thing is I had these in the background of a previous video, and someone said, well, I hope those are okay. And basically, if you see things in the background of my video and I'm in my office, that means it's stuff that I'm testing or stuff that's toxic. So don't expect that it's going to be okay. The lady who sent these in said she grew up with these and her mom got them around 1941. And I'm going to share several different views of these particular bowls. But one thing that is very obvious is that there's a lot of paint chipping off the outside all the way around. Of course, they're from 1941, so that's a consideration. And I've been talking about this issue now since I started doing XRF testing. So in 2009, one of the very first things I ever tested was Pyrex. And these vintage Pyrex bowls are very high for lead. These vintage white glass, milk glass, Pyrex mixing bowls, no matter what the exterior paint color is, this exterior paint is lead paint, and it's lead paint at a level that's not safe and that wears into your cooking environment. They especially wear into your cooking environment and into your kitchen because you're stacking them and you're actually creating an impact where you're putting the exterior lead paint in the interior of another bowl to store them, and you're not necessarily washing them when you take them out. Plus, we've done some dust wipe samples, and when you do a dust wipe sample of one of these, lead comes up on the dust wipe sample from wiping off the exterior paint. And we're talking about microparticulate lead. This is not a lot of lead. You cannot see the amount of lead that's harmful to human beings. It's invisible to the naked eye. So when you can see visible chips coming off, if you can see visible pieces coming off and visible deterioration, that means that there's been enough invisible stuff coming off that it's harmful. So the one thing I wanted to say is that nothing has changed in the last 14 years since I first started doing this testing of vintage Pyrex. They are still unsafe to use for cooking. They should never be used for food use purposes. That means the casseroles, the mixing bowls, anything with the exterior paint. I'm going to show you that in just a minute using this, which is an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer. The important thing I wanted to share is that there's some misinformation out there on the interwebs, and one of the primary pieces of misinformation is that Snopes wrote an article essentially attempting to discredit these findings. The thing is, Snopes didn't use any legitimate science, or the person who wrote the article didn't know any legitimate science, and they just, wrote out their ass on that one. And unfortunately, we have contacted Snopes. I've actually met the owner of Snopes, and there's videos of me talking to him, asking him why he hasn't taken down this misinformation from their website. And we have not been able to get that retracted, even though it's fraudulent. It's completely false information. And the very funny thing is, I'm the only person I know that's been written up in Snopes now, I think 5 times, and several times they've written articles about me to say, oh, Tamara Rubin said this, so it must be true. So I'm the verified, yes, it must be true because I said it. And then other times they said, oh, well, this is false. And so they can't make up their mind whether or not they agree with my science or don't agree with my science, which again goes to the fact that they don't have science writers on staff that actually know what they're talking about when it comes to lead. Okay, so we are testing this yellow bowl using the XRF instrument. And so with the 30-second test, if you kind of look at the results, we have lead at 94,500 parts per million. We have titanium, iron, zinc, bromine, zirconium, and then antimony, which is another toxic metal, at 1,358 parts per million, barium, platinum, and gold. And so the lead level that's considered unsafe and an item intended for use by children in the paint, glaze, or coating is anything over 90 parts per million. This is 94,000 parts per million lead. That's just a conversation about the lead in the paint, which again can wear off, does wear off. We can easily show you that it's wearing off. Your Pyrex bowls have paint wearing off. And that microparticulate lead is wearing into your kitchen environment. And there's just no excuse for using lead contaminated dishes today in 2023 when there's lead-free dishes that are inexpensive and readily available. A brand new set of nesting clear glass Pyrex mixing bowls can be had for like $19 on Amazon. So there's no reason to use these for food and potentially poison your family when you can get a safe, inexpensive alternative. So then I want to show you testing the white glass. The Snopes article had someone using a reactive agent home test kit, which cannot be used on glass and really shouldn't be used on any dishes, to test the white glass and saying, look, see, it doesn't test positive for lead, when, you know, again, you can't use that method to test white glass. So when we test the white glass, we also find lead at 119 parts per million, and iron, zinc, bromine, zirconium, and again, platinum and gold. And what happens a lot of the time with some of these is that the lead level that's in the glass that you're getting with an XRF reading, at that level it might just be trace contaminant from the paint that's worn off, but I sometimes get lead readings in the white glass as high as like 1,000 parts per million, and that's actually in the glass. This milk glass often has lead. Sometimes it doesn't, but it often does. There's no way for you, the consumer, to know if they're leaching or not. And the problem is a leach test on something like this is $200, $300. And again, a new set of mixing bowls that's known to be lead free and won't poison your family and isn't a potential risk at all, $20. Do you spend $270 to do a leach test? And it just doesn't make sense. Okay, we're testing this blue bowl, and I just want to see the range of toxicants. We found 94,000 in the yellow, and just with the short test, we're finding 120,000 parts per million lead in the blue. And now we're going to test the paint on the red bowl. And the nice thing about these bowls, which were sent in, is that they are in really good shape in terms of the vibrancy of the color. So even though there's obvious paint that's worn off of these, there's a lot of paint still on. And I've got really good examples of really worn paint on other examples of these, and how much of this can actually end up wearing into your kitchen. Now, for this red bowl, it's important to see that we also have cadmium, which is a known carcinogen, 6,846 parts per million, toxic above 40 parts per million, and lead at 110,000 parts per million. And then we're going to just test the green bowl real quick. And again, this is with the short test. It's 137,400 parts per million lead. And the thing I want people to get is that this is consistent. Some of these are actually even 200,000, 300,000 parts per million lead in the paint. Again, 90 parts per million and up is unsafe for children and items intended for use by children. The amount of lead in the exterior paint of dishware is not regulated, especially vintage dishware, not regulated. So when Pyrex says, oh, we've always complied with all applicable standards and regulations, that's because there were none in 1941 when these bowls were new. So, you know, again, as I said in many of my more recent videos, you know, don't believe the hype, don't believe the greenwashing, don't believe the corporate statements, because they're always double speaking. They're always covering up for the past by saying things that seem to make sense, but when you dissect them, they actually don't make sense, because, again, they're saying we've always complied with applicable regulations when there were no regulations at the time of manufacture of many of these toxic products. So if you have questions about this, please check out Pyrex by putting the word Pyrex or vintage Pyrex in the search bar at the top of any page of leadsafemama.com, and you'll find test results for many bowls and many casseroles and examples. But you don't need to look up your particular bowl. Just know they're all toxic, they're all unsafe. None of them should be used for food use purposes. One other thing that I've seen that is just insane, that I just can't believe people are doing, and I don't use the word insane lightly, is that they are taking these bowls and then putting them inside their Instant Pot and cooking their inside the Instant Pot with a Pyrex bowl. And that contaminates your Instant Pot, contaminates your food, helps to expedite the deterioration of the exterior paint and all of that. So don't do that. That's really, really bad. And just please stop using these, because your kiddos need a better chance than my kiddos had. Thank you.